It was a sweltering summer afternoon when my life took an unexpected turn. I had just turned 18 and was about to start college, feeling a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Little did I know that the events of that day would change the course of my life forever. My name is Alex, and I was born and raised in a small town called Oakville. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and secrets were hard to keep. My parents, David and Sarah, were both hardworking people who ran a local diner that had been in our family for generations. From a young age, I was taught the value of hard work and determination. My parents always pushed me to excel in school, hoping that I would one day have the opportunity to pursue a career that would take me far away from the confines of our tiny town. Despite their good intentions, the constant pressure to succeed often felt suffocating. I found solace in my passion for art, spending countless hours sketching and painting, losing myself in the world of colors and shapes. That fateful summer day, I had planned to meet up with my best friend, Emily, at our favorite diner. We had been inseparable since childhood, and she was the only one who truly understood my creative spirit. As I stepped out of my house, the heat was almost unbearable, but that was the least of my worries. Little did I know that a chance encounter on the street would set off a chain of events that would forever alter the course of my life. As I made my way down the familiar streets of Oakville, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was different. The town seemed quieter, almost eerily so, and the usual friendly faces I encountered were nowhere to be found. Pushing the uneasy thoughts aside, I quickened my pace, eager to seek refuge in the comforting familiarity of the diner and Emily's company. However, as I turned the corner, I was met with a sight that stopped me in my tracks. A crowd had gathered outside the diner, their faces etched with concern and confusion. My heart pounded in my chest as I pushed my way through, desperate to understand what was happening. That's when I saw it, the familiar neon sign that had beckoned customers for decades, now shattered and lying in pieces on the ground. The once inviting entrance was boarded up, and a single sheet of paper was taped to the door, bearing the words, "Closed indefinitely," in bold letters. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. Had there been a break-in? Or worse, had something happened to my parents? Fear gripped me as I scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces that could provide answers. It was then that I spotted Emily, her eyes red-rimmed and her expression one of profound sadness. Before I could even open my mouth, she pulled me into a tight embrace, her body trembling with silent sobs. "Alex, I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "There was a fire last night. The diner, it's gone." Those words hit me like a ton of bricks, robbing me of breath and clarity. The diner, the very heart of my family's legacy, reduced to ashes in a single night. In that moment, everything I had known, everything I had taken for granted, was shattered beyond repair. The weight of Emily's words hung heavy in the air, and for a moment, I felt like I was suffocating. The diner, that cornerstone of my family's history and my own childhood, was gone, just like that. Suddenly, I felt adrift, unmoored from the foundations that had once anchored me. As the shock began to subside, a whirlwind of questions swirled in my mind. How could this have happened? What would become of my parents' livelihood? The very thing they had poured their blood, sweat, and tears into for decades? Emily must have sensed my distress because she tightened her embrace, grounding me in that moment. "Alex, I'm here for you, whatever you need," she murmured, her voice a lifeline in the chaos. Pulling back, I met her gaze, searching for answers in her eyes. "What happened? How did the fire start?" Emily shook her head, her expression grave. "No one knows for sure yet. The investigation is still ongoing." A lump formed in my throat as I considered the implications. Without the diner, what would my parents do? They had sacrificed so much to keep that place afloat, working tirelessly to provide for our family. As if reading my mind, Emily placed a reassuring hand on my arm. "Your parents are tough, Alex. They'll get through this, and we'll all be there to support them." I wanted to believe her words, to cling to that glimmer of hope, but a nagging sense of dread gnawed at me. This was more than just the loss of a building. It felt like the unraveling of everything I had ever known. Pushing past the crowd, I made my way towards the charred remains of the diner, my heart aching at the sight of the once vibrant facade now reduced to rubble. Memories flooded my mind, each one a stark reminder of what had been taken away. As I stood there, surrounded by the ashes of my past, a newfound determination took root within me. This wasn't the end, it was a chance to rebuild, to forge a new path forward. And I would do whatever it took to ensure that my family's legacy endured, no matter how daunting the road ahead might seem. In the days that followed, the true extent of the devastation became painfully clear. Not only was the diner a total loss, but my parents' financial situation was more precarious than I could have imagined. Decades of hard work and sacrifice had quite literally gone up in flames. As the investigation into the fire's cause dragged on, tensions within our family began to mount. My father, David, grew increasingly frustrated with the lack of answers, lashing out at anyone who dared question his decisions or offer unsolicited advice. "We'll rebuild," he would declare defiantly, his jaw set in a hard line. "This family has faced far worse, and we've always come out on top." But my mother, Sarah, seemed less convinced. I could see the worry etched into the lines of her face, the fear that perhaps this time, the odds were stacked too high against us. "David, be reasonable," she would plead, her voice trembling with barely contained emotion. "We've lost everything. How can we possibly start over from scratch?" Their arguments became more frequent, filling the once warm atmosphere of our home with a suffocating tension. I found myself caught in the middle, desperately trying to play peacemaker while grappling with my own doubts and insecurities. Emily remained a constant source of support, offering a sympathetic ear and a shoulder to lean on whenever the weight of it all became too much to bear. But even she couldn't fully comprehend the depth of my family's struggles. As the weeks dragged on, the reality of our situation became increasingly dire. With no income and mounting debts, we were forced to make difficult decisions. First, it was selling off cherished possessions to make ends meet. Then, it was the heartbreaking realization that we might have to leave our beloved town, the only home I had ever known. Through it all, I clung to the hope that somehow, someway, we would find a way to overcome this obstacle, just as we had done countless times before. But as the rift between my parents grew wider, that hope began to feel more and more like a fleeting dream. It was during one particularly heated argument that everything came to a head. Raised voices echoed through the house, accusations and recriminations flying like daggers through the air. "This is all your fault," my father roared, his face contorted with rage. "If you had just listened to me, none of this would have happened." My mother recoiled as if she had been struck, tears streaming down her face. "How dare you blame me for this? I've sacrificed everything for this family, just like you have." In that moment, something inside me snapped. I couldn't bear to see the two people I loved most in the world tearing each other apart. All because of a tragedy that neither of them had any control over. "Enough!" I shouted, my voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. "Can't you see what this is doing to us? We're supposed to be a family, supporting each other through the good times and the bad." Both of my parents fell silent, their expressions a mixture of shock and shame. It was then that I realized the true test we faced wasn't just about rebuilding the diner or regaining our financial stability. It was about holding on to the bonds that truly mattered, the love and unity that had sustained us through countless hardships before. With a renewed sense of determination, I vowed to do whatever it took to bring my family back together, to heal the wounds that had been inflicted by this cruel twist of fate. Because in the end, it wasn't just about saving a business, it was about saving the very essence of who we were as a family. In the aftermath of that explosive argument, an uneasy truce settled over our household. My parents avoided each other like the plague, communicating only through terse, clipped sentences when absolutely necessary. The once warm and inviting atmosphere had been replaced by a suffocating tension that seemed to permeate every corner of our home. Desperate to escape the stifling environment, I found myself spending more and more time with Emily. She was the only one who truly understood what I was going through. The only person who could offer a respite from the constant turmoil that had become my reality. It was during one of our long walks through the familiar streets of Oakville that Emily dropped a bombshell that would change everything. "Alex, there's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice laced with hesitation. "I overheard my dad talking on the phone the other day, and well, it doesn't sound good." My heart skipped a beat as 1,000 worst-case scenarios raced through my mind. "What is it? What did he say?" Emily took a deep breath, her eyes filled with a mixture of concern and something else I couldn't quite place. Apparently, there's been some new evidence uncovered about the fire at the diner. I felt the blood drain from my face as I processed her words. Evidence? What kind of evidence? They think it might have been arson. Those 3 words hit me like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs. Arson? Someone had intentionally set the fire that had destroyed my family's livelihood, our very way of life? A million questions raced through my mind. Who could have done such a thing? And why? Was it a random act of senseless violence? Or was there a deeper, more sinister motive at play? As the shock began to wear off, a new emotion took root within me, a burning desire for answers, for justice. I couldn't sit idly by while the person responsible for this heinous act walked free, potentially ready to strike again. We have to find out who did this, I said, my voice trembling with barely contained fury. They can't get away with this, Emily. They've already taken so much from us. Emily nodded, her expression solemn. I know. But we have to be careful. If this really was arson, who knows how far the perpetrator might go to cover their tracks? A chill ran down my spine at the thought, but I pushed it aside. Fear could not be allowed to dictate my actions, not when so much was at stake. From that day forward, Emily and I became consumed with our amateur investigation. We pored over every scrap of information we could find, following even the faintest of leads in our quest for the truth. As the weeks turned into months, our search took us down increasingly dark and twisted paths. We encountered shady characters and uncovered secrets that seemed better left undisturbed. But still, we pressed on, driven by a relentless pursuit of justice and a desperate need to provide answers for my family. Little did we know that our digging would eventually lead us to a truth far more shocking and dangerous than either of us could have ever imagined. A truth that would not only test the limits of our friendship, but would also force us to confront the harsh realities of the world we thought we knew. As our investigation deepened, the web of deceit and corruption we uncovered grew more tangled and complex with every passing day. Whispered rumors and cryptic warnings from shadowy informants painted a picture of a vast conspiracy that reached far beyond the burned-down diner. Influential figures, some whose names carried weight throughout the town, were implicated in the arson plot, their motives ranging from personal vendettas to shady business dealings gone awry. We quickly realized that we were swimming in waters far deeper and murkier than we had ever imagined. The deeper we delved, the more dangerous our pursuit became. Late-night phone calls with distorted voices issued thinly veiled threats, warning us to back off before we got in over our heads. Mysterious figures seemed to linger in the shadows, their presence a constant reminder that we were treading on the toes of powerful individuals who would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. Through it all, Emily remained my steadfast ally, her unwavering courage and determination a lifeline in the face of mounting peril. But even she couldn't deny the growing sense of unease that settled over us like a suffocating shroud. In a shocking turn of events, our quest for the truth led us to the doorstep of someone we least expected, a member of my own family. The revelation was like a knife to the heart, shattering everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me. As the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place, a horrifying picture emerged, one of greed, betrayal, and the ultimate sacrifice of family bonds on the altar of personal ambition. The weight of the truth was almost too much to bear. And for a moment, I found myself questioning everything I had fought for, but in the end, the pursuit of justice won out. With Emily by my side, we made the agonizing decision to expose the conspiracy, no matter the personal cost. The fallout was swift and severe, fracturing relationships and upending the very foundations of our once idyllic town.